looking at the Headway Plus book with Al Jazeera International Academy here in Riyadh, and we're looking at Unit 12 from the intermediate book, and it's to do with adventure, really, I suppose. So, and as you already know, my name is Mr. Paul Anthony. So here we are. It's all about Hannibal, and who can tell me? What do you know about Hannibal, one of the great explorers?
You know, he's a general. I believe he was from Carthage in North Africa.
Okay.
And the ancient Romans, during the time of the Roman Empire, had a very difficult time fighting against his forces.
Okay. This is when he lived. Hannibal lived 247 to 182 BC. And let's go up to here. The early years. So, Mr. Lou, would you like to read about the early years for me?
Yes. Hannibal Barca was born in Carthage, North Africa, now a suburb of Tunis, Tunisia, in 247 BC. At that time, this once prosperous seaport was losing a long and exhausting war with the Romans over who should rule the Western Mediterranean. His father, Hamilcar, was a general in the army, and it is said that he ordered his son to hate the Romans forever. Ooh.
Thank you for that. So, where was Hannibal born?
Hannibal was born in Carthage, North Africa, in an area that is now a suburb of Tunisia.
Okay. What is a seaport? What's that, a seaport?
Seaport is an area where ships will come to dock so that they can load and unload their goods.
Thank you. What would you say is a long and exhausting war? Exhausting war.
I think it was very difficult for the armies from both sides. They had lost a lot of men and weapons and whatnot.
Yes. And who was Hannibal's father?
He was Hamilcar.
Yeah, that's right. A general in the army, that's right. Could you read the next paragraph, please, Mr. Lou?
The 23-year-long war was finally lost in 241 BC. Hannibal and his family moved to Spain, where the Carthaginians were trying to build a new empire. Hannibal grew up to be a bold and fearless fighter like his father, and eventually became commander of the army. In 218 BC, the Romans again threatened to attack. In a daring and dangerous plan, Hannibal decided to march from Spain to Italy before the Romans had even declared war. This march was to be a journey of 2,415 kilometers across both the Pyrenees and the Alps.
Thank you for that. So, how long did the war last? How long did the war last?
23 years.
23 years, yeah. And when the battle, or the war was finally lost, where did Hannibal and his family move to?
Let's see here. Move to Spain.
Yes. And what were the Carthaginians trying to do? What were the Carthaginians trying to do?
Trying to build a new empire.
They were trying to build a new empire. How did Hannibal grow up? How did he grow up?
He grew up to be a bold and fearless fighter like his father.
Yeah, what does that mean? Bold and fearless?
It means that he was a very skilled soldier who was also good at leading other soldiers.
Okay. And when did the Romans again threaten to attack?
In 218 BC.
Yes, they did. What did Hannibal then decide to do? What did he decide to do?
He decided to march from Spain to Italy before the Romans had even declared war.
Yes. And how far was this journey?
2,415 kilometers.
Okay. What did he have to cross?
The Pyrenees and the Alps, two major mountain ranges.
Yes, that's right. Let's move over here. It's all about the journey. Do you think you could read this first part here, Mr. Lou?
In May 218 BC, Hannibal left Spain with an army of about 90,000 men and 37 elephants, which he believed were needed to get them over the mountains. Under his inspiring leadership, they marched through Spain to the Pyrenees. When his troops saw the mountains, many of them refused to go any further. Hannibal knew that unwilling soldiers make bad soldiers, and he invited them to leave. Thousands of them did. The rest marched on the south of France, moving about 16 kilometers a day. They reached the river Rhone and accomplished the unbelievable task of building huge rafts to ferry the elephants across. Some fell off but managed to swim using their trunks as snorkels. It was now autumn, and snow started to fall as they approached the Alps. The army, helped by the elephants, struggled on, slipping and sliding over ice and snow over the main pass. Finally, they were in the sight of Italy. Their 5-month journey at an end, Hannibal's army of 90,000 was reduced to 36,000.
Thank you for
The
that.
storms now killed off all but one of his elephants.
Yes, that's right. So, how many men did he leave Spain with?
90,000.
90,000. And how many elephants did he leave Spain with?
37.
37, yes, that's right. What did some of his troops do when they saw the mountains? What did some of his troops do when they saw the mountains?
Did they drop out? Refused to go any further. Yes, they dropped out.
Okay. What was Hannibal's attitude to that? What did he think about that?
He knew that unwilling people would be bad soldiers, so he let them leave.
Yeah, he let them leave. So if you want to leave, you can leave. Because he wanted real fighting men, not men who would like, oh, a mountain, I can't do that. Where did the rest of them march on to? Where did they march on to?
They marched through the south of France. Right?
On to the south of France, yeah. How many kilometres a day were they walking?
About 16.
16 kilometres a day, yeah. When they reached the River Rhone, what did they accomplish? When they reached the River Rhone, what did they accomplish?
They tried to make rafts for the elephants, and then they crossed the river. Some of the elephants fell off the rafts, and they swam.
Yeah. Okay, and they used their trunks as snorkels. Yeah. So what's a trunk? What's an elephant's trunk?
It's a long part of the front of the elephant's body.
Yeah,
That they
it's that
use
part
for
that comes
breathing
down.
up and making noise and grabbing on the food that they put in their mouths.
Yeah. So when they fell off the rafts into the water, they were actually able to breathe because this part goes through to the brain, so they were actually kept it up high and they swam. It was very interesting. Yeah. And let's have a look at some of this vocabulary here. Inspiring leadership. What does that phrase mean? Inspiring leadership.
That he was able to get his men to march, a long march, and fight hard.
Okay. And troops. What are troops? Troops.
Soldiers.
Soldiers, yeah, soldiers, men of war. Well, what's unwilling soldiers? Unwilling soldiers, what does that mean?
Soldiers who really don't want to be soldiers anymore. They'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah, soldiers who no longer want to be soldiers. Accomplished. What does that mean? Accomplished.
To be able to do something successfully.
To be able to do something successfully, which is what they did in the past tense. What's a snorkel? What's that, a snorkel?
Snorkel is a tube that you use to breathe through when your body is underwater, but the tube itself is above water.
Yes, that's right. So if you go swimming under the water, you have this thing here with a tube up here. This is actually the snorkel, which is above the level of the water. And that's what the elephants did with their trunk. So they lifted the trunk up and they were able to breathe as they swam. So Slipping and sliding. Slipping and sliding. What does that mean, Mr. Lou?
That means moving quickly in a somewhat uncontrolled manner across ice.
Yeah, like if you kind of slip like that and slide like that. Okay. Finally, they were in sight of Italy. What does that mean? In sight of Italy.
Means that they could see the border with the country Italy.
Yes. When they reached the end of this 5-month journey, how many men or how many troops were left within Hannibal's army?
36,000.
36,000 out of an original 90,000. How many elephants were killed during this?
36.
36 elephants? How do you know?
He began with 37.
He began with 37, yes. Only one elephant survived. That's right. So let's have a look. So this charts Hannibal's journey from Carthago, Nova Carthago. They went all the way along what is now Spain, the east coast of Spain. And then the Pyrenees, the mountains, up here, all the way down, here's the Alps here. They went all the way down into Italy, so this is Swiss Alps. Here we have the Pyrenees, which I guess equates to the French Alps. All the way down through to Italy, and then on to this part of North Africa. Okay, let's have a look at the final years. In some ways, Hannibal's march was hugely successful because he took the Romans by surprise and initially defeated them in numerous battles. However, after many years and many more battles, his army failed to overcome Rome's superior resources and manpower. Hannibal, who had been 29 at the start of his journey, sailed back to North Africa aged 45. He finally committed suicide in 182 BC, aged 65. Despite his final defeat, he is still recognized as one of the greatest military leaders in history. Lou, what does hugely successful mean? Hugely successful.
That means that he did, wow, much more well than people would think he would do.
He did well, much better than anyone would have thought. Yeah. What does it mean? He took the Romans by surprise. What does that mean, to take somebody by surprise?
Well, that's strange to me, because earlier on it said he felt threatened by the Romans. Now he's saying he took them by surprise.
So yeah, they weren't expecting him to complete the journey. They thought nobody could do that. So on the way there, he encountered some Romans who would just kill them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So they didn't expect him to be there, even though they were threatening.
Yeah, they didn't expect him to come to them. No.
Strange.
But because the journey would be too difficult. To go over 2 sets of mountain ranges, be impossible virtually. But he did it.
Okay.
And that's really surprising. They were like, well, you know, we could take this guy, but he will never come over to us. It's impossible. We can take him. So the Romans just carried on as normal. They won. They were just, and he probably thought, well, the Romans are over there. They could, if they come for us, we've got a problem. Why don't we go for them over the mountain ranges? We can go for them over these mountains. Oof. Yeah, a difficult journey. Sailed back. What does that mean? Sailed back.
He traveled back via the water.
Okay. And committed suicide. What does that mean? Committed suicide.
Killed himself.
He killed himself. Yes, he did. Okay, let's go there. Now, close your eyes and imagine you are one of 90,000 people. You are travelling together on foot over mountains, rivers and plains. It's winter. What problems would you face? What problems do you think Hannibal and his men faced?
Well, there would definitely be the cold itself, you get frostbite.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly lack of ample food, right? You can't just go collect wild berries or fruit or something. I mean, the fruit is already fallen off the trees by the time winter comes around.
Mm-hmm.
There could be possible attacks from animals like bears and wolves.
Okay.
Lack of ample water, right? I mean, a lot of the rivers and lakes may be frozen over.
Yeah, yeah.
We already get water from them. Off the top of my head, that's what I can think of.
Okay. And so we've just read about Hannibal. We haven't got two groups, so let's have a look at this. How did Hannibal's father influence his life? How did Hannibal's father influence his life?
He taught him to be a good soldier and to always hate Rome.
Yes, he did. And who were the enemy?
The Romans.
The Romans. Where did he move to?
Spain.
Spain, yes. And why did they set off on such a long journey?
To attack the Romans.
Yeah. So the first part, let's just check out answers. Possible answers: crossing mountains, possibly covered in snow, crossing rivers, running out of food. These were the problems. Possible problems. Other possible problems: keeping everyone together, beating the cold and hunger, crossing difficult terrain, finding suitable places to camp, keeping everyone's morale up. Let's look at this vocabulary. Keeping everyone together. What does that mean, Mr. Liu?
That means keeping our 36,000 troops marching along at a proper pace.
Yes, keeping everybody marching together. So, possible problems. Keeping everyone together, Mr. Liu. What does that mean, keeping everyone together?
That would mean keeping everyone marching along at an even pace.
Yes, keeping the soldiers marching together in a straight line. And beating the cold and hunger. What does that mean, beating the cold and hunger?
Not getting frostbite, not starving to death.
Yeah, making sure you're warm so you don't get frostbite in your feet. And you have to find food as well. So he had to be sure that his men were warm, they had food. Difficult terrain. What does that mean? Crossing difficult terrain.
Maybe high mountains, areas that were very slippery, having to climb up and down.
Yeah.
You know, the dangers of climbing and whatnot.
Climbing up these mountains, and they're very slippery. Okay. Finding suitable places to camp. What does that mean? Suitable places to camp.
Places that were safe, that weren't completely iced over, where they'd be able to get some rest and not worry about frostbite, not worry about attacks from animals or foreign enemies.
Yes, that's right. Good. Keeping everyone's morale up. What is morale?
Morale is the overall feelings the troops are feeling toward what they're doing, what their mission is, what their goals are.
Yes, your morale is your spirit, how you feel. That's right. Talking about Hannibal. So his father was a general in the army and a bold fighter. He ordered Hannibal to hate the Romans forever. Hannibal became commander of the army and was also a fearless fighter, which was already discussed. He went there to attack the Romans. He moved to Spain with his family, and he planned to march from Spain to Italy because the Romans threatened to attack. So rather than them attack him, he said, right, I'm going to move from Spain to Italy. And he wanted to reach Italy before the Romans declared war. Okay, let's just go ahead. Before the Romans declared war. What's that? Declared war.
Before the Romans officially announced that they were going to be going after the Carthaginians in a violent manner.
Yes. What does it mean, the Romans threatened to attack? What does that mean? Threatened to attack.
They were doing something that made the Carthaginians think that they were going to be subject to violence.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Now we're going to look at the article about Martyrdom and the Long March, or what became known as the Long March. Now, Mao Zedong was born in 1893 and he died in 1976. Perhaps, Mr. Liu, you'd like to read about Mao Zedong's early years.
Mao Zedong was born in Hunan province in southern China in 1893. His father was an ambitious but illiterate farmer who advised his son to get the education he didn't have. At university, Mao became active in revolutionary student groups and, in 1921, helped found the Chinese Communist Party. He established a base in the remote Jinsei province, where they formed the Red Army to fight against the nationalist government under Chiang Kai-shek. However, in 1934, they were forced to escape from the area. They set off on a remarkable journey which became known as the Long March.
Thank you very much. So, when was Mao Zedong born?
In 1893.
Yes, in Hunan province in southern China. What does illiterate mean? What does illiterate mean?
Unable to read and write.
Yes, unable to read and write. And what about ambitious? What does that mean, ambitious?
Someone who has high goals.
Yes, someone who has got high goals. They want to do big things in their lives. And his father, Mao Zedong's father, was not able to read or write, but he had high goals. He wanted to achieve a lot of things. What did Mao Zedong's father advise him to do? What did his father advise him to do?
Pursue his education.
Yes, pursue his education, an education which he himself did not have. What did Mao Zedong become active in at university? What did Mao Zedong become active in at university?
Revolutionary student groups.
He became active in revolutionary student groups. What does it mean, revolutionary?
Groups that did not like the current government and wanted a new and different kind of government to take power.
Yes, these are people, if you don't want your particular government, you become a revolutionary. Okay. What did Mao Zedong help to found in 1921? What did Mao Zedong help to found in 1921?
The Communist Party.
The Communist Party, that's correct, the Chinese Communist Party. And where did he establish a base? Where did he establish a base?
In the remote Jinsei province.
Yeah, in the remote Jiangxi province. And what did they form there? What did they form there?
The Red Army.
The Red Army.
The nationalist government.
Yes, the Red Army. And what happened in 1934? What happened in 1934?
They had to escape from the area.
Yes, they did. And they set off on a remarkable journey. What does that mean, a remarkable journey?
A major and extremely difficult to accomplish journey.
Yes, a major and extremely difficult journey to accomplish. And it became known as the Long March. Well, let's have a look about this Long March. Here it is. The Long March. Let's move that over here. Ah. So this is the part of China where they went. As you can see, it really was a long march. Perhaps you'd like to read the first paragraph here, Lou, about the Long March.
The march began October 16th, and no one was sure where they were going, but 86,000 men and 30 women, including Mao's wife, set out to walk from the south to the north of China. The journey took 1 year, ending in the Shanxi province. They started the march quite well, armed with 33,243 guns, but 5 weeks later suffered their first disastrous defeat at the Xiang River crossing. They lost 56,000 men, and much of their equipment was thrown into the river. Although some party officials complained that Mao's march was killing too many soldiers, he became leader of both the Red Army and the Communist Party at this time. He was a tough but popular leader.
Thank you for that. Yes. So when did the Long March begin?
October 16th.
Yes, it began on October the 16th. And did they know where they were going?
No.
No, they didn't. They didn't actually know where they were going. And how many men and women went on the march?
Began with 86,000 men and 30 women.
86,000 men and 30 women. And how long did the march take? How long did the march take?
About a year, wasn't it?
Yes, 1 year, and it ended in the Shaanxi province. How many guns and weapons did they have when they initially left?
33,243 guns.
Yes, they did. Where did they suffer their first defeat? Where did they suffer their first defeat?
Xi'an River.
At the, I think it's pronounced Shang River. The Shang River crossing, yeah. How many men did they lose? How many men?
56,000.
56,000 men were lost. And what happened to much of their equipment, their emergency supplies, their weapons? What happened to a lot of it?
A lot of it was lost in the river.
It was lost in the river, yes, that's right. What did Mao Zedong become leader of? What did Mao Zedong become leader of?
The Red Army and the Communist Party.
Yes, that's right. Was he popular?
He was.
He was very popular, but he was tough, he was strong, he was tough, but it also made him very popular. Now, let's have a look at some of this vocabulary. Disastrous. What does that mean, disastrous?
Very bad.
Yes, very bad, terrible. And equipment. What does that mean, equipment?
So think of that as being like your guns, your knives, your military weapons, your munitions.
Your guns, your knives, your military munitions, and party officials. What does that mean, party officials?
People who are higher up in the party, the managers, the executives.
Yes, the top people within the system. Okay, and that's very good. Perhaps you'd like to read this part here, Lou.
One of the worst experiences was crossing the great snowy mountains of 5,000 meters high. Many men died from lack of oxygen. Exhausted, they knew that to stop the rest meant certain death. If they managed to reach the top, it was best to sit down and slide to the bottom of the ice. Many men were catapulted over cliffs.
Thank you for that. Yeah. What was one of the worst experiences? What was one of the worst experiences?
Crossing the great snowy mountain.
Yeah. And how high was the Great Snowy Mountains?
5,000 meters.
5,000 meters high, yes. What did many of the men die as a result of?
Is it the cold?
The lack of
Lack of
oxygen.
oxygen.
Because they're 5,000 meters up, not enough oxygen, and some of the men simply died because there was no oxygen. And exhausted. What does that mean, exhausted?
Extremely tired.
Extremely tired, very, very tired, yes. What does this mean, Lou? Certain death.
Death would be definite. Nothing you could avoid.
Yes, certain death means you're dead. Yeah. Reach the top. What does that mean? Reach the top.
To get to the summit.
To get to the summit. It says many men were catapulted over cliffs. What's this word? Catapulted.
They were propelled in a very fast and forceful manner.
Yes. Propelled is. So a catapult is kind of like a little thing like that, and you've got your catapult, and you've got like a. And so some of these men were actually catapulted across. It was the only way to get across the cliffs, so they put them in a catapult, and they would say, okay, and that's how they got over. It was the only way to get them over. Let's come down here. Mr. Liu, perhaps you'd like to read this part here.
It was now September 1935, and the army had to cross the marshland between the Yangtze and Yellow rivers. It looked innocent, covered with flowers, but beneath the flowers were bogs that could swallow a man in a minute. Mao lost more men during this 7-day trek in the snowy mountains. Eventually, on October 19th, after marching for 370 days and 12,500 kilometers, they reached Shaanxi province. Of the 86,000 who began, only 4,000 remained.
Thank you very much. What did the Red Army have to cross? What did they have to cross in September 35?
The bogs, the marshlands between the Yangtze and Yellow rivers.
Yes, the marshland between the Yangtze and Yellow rivers. What is marshland? What's that, Lou? Marshland.
I think of it as like really wetlands where there are large collections of water can drown. People can fall into what would be like quicksand or...
Yes.
Yeah.
So the marshland is where the water is, but it has these reeds growing. It's like giant grass, and it grows up like reeds. But the ground is not solid. It's mud and water. And if you tread in it, if there's a lot of mud, that's called a bog. And if you tread in it, you could get sucked down. So they had to be careful not to go right down into the muddy bogs and the water. So then we look a bit further, let's go here. Eventually on October 19th, after marching for 370 days and 12,500 kilometers, they reached Shaanxi province. Of the 86,000 who began, only 4,000 remained. Let's come over here. So here's the picture of the actual route they took. So they started in Rujin, and they came all the way up to here, back down again and around, because all the time they're crossing these mountain ranges. And here it's very snowy, very cold, and here we have the marshlands, and this is where they end up in Wuqi. So let's now look at the later years. Mr. Liu, please read about the later years, would you?
The long march began the ascent to power of Mao Zedong. On October 1st, 1949, he proclaimed the People's Republic of China and the Great Cultural Revolution followed. This radically changed every aspect of China's society. In October 1966, Mao's Little Red Book was published, and his ideas were talked throughout the country. Mao's image was displayed everywhere, in homes, offices, shops, and streets. He eventually died October 9th, 1976, age 82.
Okay, Lou, thank you for that. That is actually September, not October.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. What does this mean? The ascent to power. The ascent to power.
He rose to power.
He went up in power. He became very, very powerful. And what did he proclaim on the 1st of October 1949?
People's Republic of China and the Great Cultural Revolution.
Yes, he proclaimed the People's Republic of China, and this led to the Great Cultural Revolution. Radically changed. What does that mean, Lou? Radically changed.
It was drastically different afterward.
Yes, it was. And what was published in October 1966? What was published? Yes, the Chairman Mao's Little Red Book. And where were his ideas taught? Where were his ideas taught?
All over China.
All over China. And where would you find his picture, his image? Where would you find that?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yes. In homes, offices, shops, and streets. When did he die, and how old was he?
September 9th, 1976, age 82.
Yes, he died on September the 9th, 1976, aged 82. Now we'll look at some questions about Mao Zedong and the Long March. When did the journey start? Do you know?
Was it 1921?
Let's have a look.
Later, wouldn't it? 1934.
1934, yes. And how many began it, and who were they?
Was it 86,000 men and 30 women?
86,000 men and 30 women, including Chairman Mao's wife. He was known as Chairman Mao. Mao's wife was one of them. Let's go back. What kind of leader was he? What kind of leader was Mao Zedong?
Very popular.
Very popular leader. And what problems did they face on the way? What problems did they face on the way?
Difficult terrain, like mountains and marshland, and difficult weather as well.
Yeah.
Extreme cold.
Okay.
Very large heights, 5,000 meters high. They didn't have enough oxygen for someone.
Yeah. And how long did the journey last?
About 1 year.
About 1 year, thank you for that. And how did it end? And how many survived?
They were successful, right? How many survived? I want to say 36,000. Was that it? I remember the exact number.
Okay. Well, on that note, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for attending today's demonstration lesson. And it was from the Headway Plus book here at Al Jazeera International Academy in Riyadh. And I know you're going to do extremely well in your English language studies. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you. Goodbye.